Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here with the Money Trekker podcast, and it's Friday, Financial Friday again. And really excited to have Tom Kemler here from BK Wealth Consulting on the show today. We're going to start off talking a little bit about the current state of the Economic Surprise Index, which we actually introduced to you a few months back on a few shows where we talked a little bit about that. And so we'll talk a little bit about that on the show today. We're going to talk a little bit about the markets, across the board, stock, bonds, and all that good stuff. And the fact that we're kind of back into normal territory where we should be after this crazy year that we've seen, and, everything going down through the dumper, coming back through COVID, lockdowns, everything else. And we're really back to kind of the normal world. We're going to have an interesting and most interesting and a least interesting thing today that Tom pulled out of the news, and have a little bit of a conversation on that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a second. Hey everybody, it's Jeff here, and we're back, and I've got Tom Kemler, my friend, on from BK Wealth Consulting. Tom, how you doing today, my friend?
Tremendous. How are you, Jeff?
I am well. It's Friday before the 4th of July, so I'm really excited. It's actually my favorite day of the year is Independence Day. We've got our all of our movies for this weekend queued up, so can't wait to do a movie festival and hang out. And apparently, it's going to be raining most of the weekend. So.
Well, I would say that anytime in Texas that you plan on it raining, that you're likely to be disappointed.
That would be true.
I'm wearing, this is, I realize I have a bunch of T-shirts with 4th of July themes, but, with the idea that we have to wear a collared shirt in a professional environment, this is the only shirt that I have that is red, white, and blue. And it's really not very good. I have to say, as an aside, I had ordered a collared shirt for 4th of July, which I've been assured in an email that I will receive today.
Okay.
But it's not. I looked on my porch right before we got on here.
Nice.
It's not here yet. So I'm planning on wearing that. There's a couple of, we're going to attend a couple of 4th of July functions this weekend. I hope to be wearing the shirt for both of them. But it has not quite arrived yet.
Not quite yet.
So this is what passes for red, white, and blue right now, and I apologize because it's plaid.
It's plaid. It works. Hey, it's and in that room, it's kind of got a little bit darker color, so you can't even really tell it's red, white, and blue. But that's all right.
Oh, okay.
All right. So what do we want to kick off with? You want to share your screen and?
Sure. We're going to kick off with economics, since that's kind of our purview here. And as you mentioned earlier, that this is a chart that I got from Ed Yardini, who has his own site. But the Citigroup Economic Surprise Index is something that's been out there for a while, at least 20-25 years. We've referenced it here a couple of months ago, and I'm putting it out here again. Obviously you can see the COVID downturn followed by the upturn in terms of surprises, and as you mentioned in your lead-in, we're getting back to normal. What I want to stress though is that when we were approaching, I think it was this point that it was like 0.2. Actually, if you look really closely, it was a negative 0.2, which is why I highlighted it. Yeah. So this was a couple of months ago, and then we had a nice bounce upward into the 60 area, and then we've come back down. This latest number is 14.3. So all of this is to say, if you strip out this giant here and this giant here, we're positive, and we're kind of in the middle of where we've been positive for a long time. This is the last 12 years or so. But if you look at this, there are periods of time, particularly like 2015, for example, we were negative for a long period of time, and that wasn't necessarily a recession. It wasn't. I mean, economic growth was slowing, but so anyway, the bottom line here is that kind of as you mentioned, we're more normal, but we're still positive, and that's I think the biggest drive of the markets. Forget about everything else. To the extent that you're getting positive surprises out of the economy, more of them than negative, it's going to support the markets, particularly the equity and commodity markets. So let's take a look at what the surprises are. I've got the positive surprises loaded up first, the negatives afterwards. So Redbook, we may wonder about the fascination with Redbook, and I'm just going to say this. I'm going to keep posting Redbook as long as it keeps posting records. So this 18.2 beat the 17.6, which is the previous record from last week. So as long as Redbook just keeps posting just amazing, I mean, this is in a mature economy like ours. These are store sales, just unbelievable. And again, not to belabor the point for people who watch this regularly, but anything in double digits was really unheard of until about 3 months ago. Home prices. We've been talking about how the real estate market and real estate home values have been just amazing. It's helping to create wealth in this country. It's helping to drive the home building and real estate markets are driving the economy in large measure. The median home price in the United States hit $350,000 last month. So this was just, again, the consensus was that, last month was up 1.6. They thought it would sag back a little bit. No, came in right ahead, right pretty much where it had been the previous month. So there's no back off at all. And, you're getting the average person's home is appreciated by 15% over the last year. FHFA is the federal thing as opposed to Case-Shiller, pretty much the same story, a little bit different methodology, but you're getting around 2% and 15%. Consumer confidence, this was a blow away. The prior number was pretty high, and then they revised again. This is what we've seen a lot. The prior number was revised higher. It was expected to moderate a little bit, but then came in even higher still. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive on consumer confidence, because I think part of it is everybody's excited that the lockdowns have ended, getting back to opening up the economy and living life normally again. This weekend, I've read where the TSA checkpoint numbers are going to be pre-pandemic levels. So people are traveling, people are driving, people are meeting in person. And I think all of this is just, a little bit of euphoria. So one thing I was looked at, I actually went out to the people who produce the Consumer Confidence Index, which is the Conference Board. And they have a chart on their website that shows how you get into this is the great financial crisis of 07-09. You can see how consumer confidence just really suffers when business is and the economy is terrible. Then you had this slow recovery, to new highs, and then we have the COVID drop. But look at this, we're pretty much back up to where we were for the last 2-3 years before COVID. So we've made that up. And here's another way of looking at it. And I did this, and you may recall, and I hope some folks out there might recall, that last year I did a bit of a deep dive on the conference index, where I showed the difference between the present view of the economy, the expectations, and then their overall. And it's not clear exactly. It's not the overall is not a simple average of the present thing versus the expectations deal. What was interesting to me is that, and again, you could extend, this is only the last 3 years, but you could extend this back to the late 70s, or actually the early 70s, that, as the conference board started in the 40s, and for like the first 25 years of it, people's expectations were always better than what their present observations were. So in other words, they were always more optimistic about the future than they were about the present. That changed about 50 years ago. And ever since, we've had a situation that's really gotten bad in the last couple of decades, where people look around and they say, hey, things are pretty good, but my expectations are that they're going to stink. And this shows it better than me putting any numbers on it. What was intriguing was that, as bad as the COVID drop was, what did it do? It just took the present observations down to what people always thought the future was going to be anyway. I mean, think about that. People are so pessimistic about the future that they basically, in aggregate, have this underlying expectation that we've got a COVID crisis, pandemic, or something like it around the corner all the time. Now we're getting back to normal. Where the expectations are still down here, and the present and overall are moving back above. But I just think this whole dichotomy of where what you see and what you think is coming are just so radically different. And I'm just going to say, I blame the media. I just blame the media for the hyping.
You have it constantly pounding you in the face every day
with negativity. I should have had this with a real estate. Sorry about that. But the home sales index, this was one where we had and I actually asked it openly when I put this number out last month. I said, geez, is this the beginning of maybe some weakness in the real estate market? And so this was a bad number. And then the consensus was, we're going to be kind of, meh. This number was huge. And so it just came in and just blew away. I mean, this was skewed towards being a negative number. The consensus was a negative. The positive actual outcome was just massively positive. Switching gears a little bit, this doesn't have anything to do with expectations, but this is the prices that farmers in aggregate are receiving for their crops. Things are going good on the farm right now. Let's just say that. This is driving a lot. Last week we talked, and I promised a little bit of a follow-up. This is why I put it in here. That farm prices are a big driver of why export prices are rising faster than import prices, because the kinds of things that we export, and we do export a lot of farm products from this country. I mean, food, middle America is just, or farm America, rural America is doing great. This number year over year is just massive. I never saw those kinds of numbers, even when there was major inflation back in the early 80s. Now we're into the negatives a little bit. The Chicago PMI number came in pretty weak. The prior number was extremely strong. Let's just say a 75 was gigundous. Even a 66 is awesome. But you know, the consensus was it was going to sag back a little bit, but it sagged back a lot more than a little bit and dropped off below the range. Construction spending was another one where you know, the prior month was revised negative, and that had been a weak reading. The consensus was it was going to reflate a little bit. We actually came in negative. So is this a bit of a twist on the home price thing? Are home prices getting to the point where it's discouraging the actual construction? I don't know. You know, part of this construction spending can also be that we've seen some dramatic drops in the prices of the commodities that are being used in construction. You know, lumber is, you know, has dropped off from its May peak by more than half. You know, copper's down. So it's possible that the materials that go into construction spending are helping to drive this number a little bit, as opposed to, say, maybe like the number of housing and commercial project starts. The employment number that came out today, I would say, is a bit of a negative, not because the non-farm payrolls were actually a little bit ahead of expectations and right in the middle. I'm highlighting this for two reasons. The first is that the unemployment rate was expected to drop from 5.8 to 5.6. It actually came in above the consensus range. Now, why is that? Well, the biggest reason is, as everybody hopefully knows, you're not counted as unemployed if you're not looking for work. You have to be looking for work to be unemployed. So what it tells everyone is that people are starting to look for work again. And if they don't find it immediately, they're considered to be unemployed. So that's a definitional type thing. So you can have, you know, the payrolls number come in very strongly and yet have the unemployment rate go up because everybody's like, yeah, I guess it's time to get back to work.
Well, yeah, and also a lot of states, you know, coincidentally, a lot of states started cutting out the extra unemployment and making people start to, you know, actually have to be looking for work. They can't just
actually, yeah, exactly. And about, you know, it's about half of them, I think, right around 25, and they're all states that are headed with Republican governors. So that's
so that
very
we may
clear,
even continue to see that number increase over the next couple months as all that kind of comes into place.
Two other things about this that were interesting to me was that the average hourly earnings number came in a little weak on a month-over-month basis, but it came in a little strong on a year-over-year basis. There's probably something statistical going on here. The other thing that was interesting to me was that the average work week dropped, and it was supposed to go up. And you know what that tells me is that it may be, you know, especially on the month over month and this, the average hourly work week, is that maybe the kinds of jobs that got filled this month were a lot of, you know, maybe things like baristas and wait staff and people that aren't working, you know, that are in the more hospitality end of the spectrum, which had been hurt so hard. That would explain the hours and the compensation, because that's just the way it is in that industry. I thought this was a pretty funny idea, talking about the employment situation. This is maybe a little bit off color, but I just thought it was hilarious. This is a club that names itself the Perfect 10, but they're having trouble hiring, so they're willing to hire 8s.
That's good. That's an El Arroyo thing right there.
That's what I thought. Yeah, exactly. Which, you know, El Arroyo gets national distribution.
I know, they're hilarious.
It's But and this is a graphic that I got from the Wall Street Journal today. This shows the non-farm payrolls change since the beginning of last year. Very graphically, you see the jump off the deep end when COVID hit in April, and then the stair step back. So we're still down 6.5 million jobs as of today, but we were down about 22 million over a little over a year ago. So that's pretty awesome. And I think that's it. And I think we're at the point where I'm going to get to my most interesting thing. And here it is. Okay. Now, the Olympics are in just a few weeks, and I want everyone to know I am a huge Olympics fan. I have always been an Olympics fan. I think the Olympics are great. And I saw this story today and it just broke my heart. This is Shikari Richardson. She was the best 100-meter dash contestant at the U.S. trials by far. I mean, if you go back, if you get a chance to look at the women's 100-meter final, she blew away the field. There was like 7 other people that were about the same distance, and she was like 5 yards ahead of them at the tape. So she's not going to be representing the United States at the Olympics for the 100-meter dash. And her sin is that she failed a drug test. Now, what did she fail? She tested positive for cannabis. And I got to tell you, I'm just outraged. I don't do Twitter, but I'm going to start a hashtag free Shikari Richardson. This is just outrageous. So she takes a drug test. The drug tests are supposedly for PED, performance enhancing drugs. Now, I have it on good authority from authorities like Cheech and Chong on down that marijuana and cannabis have never been associated with enhancing speed or quickness.
Yes.
I mean, let's be
think
honest
how
here.
fast she would be if she didn't use it. So
Exactly. This is like doing 100 meters with a safe on her back. I mean, come on. I just,
you're making it more fair for everybody else in the world. Dang it! Come on.
I'm telling you though, in a world where the right kind of hashtag can occasionally get things that are unjust overturned, and I'm saying free Shikari Richardson, hashtag free Shikari Richardson. I want to see her at the Olympics. I want to see her run. And the fact that she can't run because there's cannabis in her system, the hypocrisy, the stupidity, I'm just upset.
Yes.
Finally, this is the least interesting thing. About an hour after we finished our podcast last week, this much ballyhooed director of national intelligence report about what we call UFOs or what they call UAPs finally dropped. And I got to tell you that the run up to that report was such that, the people were wondering, like, okay, is the government releasing this report to distract us from, things that are going on in the country? Like, are they just going to tell us about aliens and what have you, and in an attempt to, just sideline or gaslight whatever else is going on? No, this is the exact opposite. This was the most boring report of the most consequential thing. I mean, what you had is the official United States government policy and reporting states that we now accept that there are UFOs and there are all sorts of phenomena that we can't explain. And a lot of these sightings tripped multiple sensors at once. And that was maybe the most important thing in that report, was that it wasn't just like you're seeing something. We have sensors that could see something, it might also create like a radar signature, so it was tripping a number of different kinds of sensors at once. And yet we came out with a report that managed to be so ho-hum that people, I'm sure some people are like, hey, did they ever release that report? Like, so they didn't highlight anything that was worth highlighting. And the last thing I would say about that UFO report is that, if you look at some of the supporting documentation, some of the clearest pictures are from the 40s and 50s. Like, you look at these videos of stuff that came off of like F-18s. Now, I guess our intelligence community has to degrade the quality of the images to kind of blur out for our adversaries. Like, they don't want them to know exactly how clearly we can see stuff. But I mean, the stuff, they degraded it to the point where it reminded me of like looking at like my black and white television in 1968, when you have to like go over, and even just standing near the television might change how much the static on the screen cleared up. I mean, touching, you could touch the rabbit ears and it would change it. I mean, some of the video quality of these things, it's like, are you kidding me? Come on.
This is as good as we have. We spend billions of dollars on this technology, and that's it's as good as we get.
Yeah, I think, it's obvious that they're trying to convince our adversaries that basically all of our pilots are Mr. Magoo.
Yeah.
That we can't see anything and our sensors can't capture anything. So
yeah, all it is a little blurb. Actually, it kind of looked like a Pong game a couple of times there. The doot, doot, doot.
Yeah, it did look like a Pong game. Only a Pong game with, Pong, as I remember, it was a clear black and white. This was Pong with static.
Blurry black and white. Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, that's kind of cool. A most interesting and a least interesting thing on the same show at the same time.
Free Shikari Richardson.
Free Shikari Richardson. Yes, we need to put that out there.
We'll see if that hashtag trends. We'll see how the power of this brand is doing. But
yeah,
I want to see her run. I think it's just outrageous that she wouldn't run and for a PDD.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it. Degrading, not enhancing, degrading.
Well, and I mean, it could very well have been like some kind of a CBD product or something like that had a little, traces of THC or something like that in it. And
maybe, I don't know. I mean,
who knows?
Matter. It doesn't matter.
She's still outrunning everybody else, and has PDDs on her. So. Exactly.
She was running with a pack on her back and still beat everybody by 5 yards. 5 meters.
Thank you for that this week. It was fantastic. Everybody, we wish you all a happy and safe Independence Day. Enjoy yourselves. Hopefully you have a few days off and you can do that. Get out, enjoy the world, be out there without masks, hopefully, if you're vaccinated, and just enjoy yourselves. We are now out on multiple channels. We just got up on iHeartRadio this week. So if that's a channel that you watch, certainly join us on iHeartRadio, and make sure that you, if whatever channel you're watching this on, we are now doing shows 5 days a week. We do this Financial Friday. We do some business skills courses throughout the week, or business skills shows. I just interviewed 2 fantastic interviews that are going to be coming out in the next week or so with a couple of folks in the talking about tax credits and healthcare and what's going on in the healthcare world. and then some really great entrepreneur interviews that we've been doing. So keep your eye out for those episodes. Make sure if you've got any questions or anything like that for Tom and myself, please put your comments in whatever channel you're on. We monitor all those, and we will show them up on another show. So we appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you back here next week.